I have been loving the scallop trim decor trend lately. Try saying that 3 times fast. Oh goodness. You'll notice throughout my house that I have it almost in every room. I wanted to make some more scalloped decor. And so to gather some inspiration, I went and browsed the internet and I found some really cute things. And the project that I'm going to share with you today is from or inspired by Magnolia. I actually have 2 of them, and so I will share that other one in another video. I am excited about this. It does take some tools, and so there's some pretty basic tools that you should have in your tool shed already, at least one of them. That and some wood. I just used some scrap wood from a pile in my garage. That being said, I am taking you into my garage. It's not pretty, just a heads up. It is literally the floor of my garage. I backed up my truck and put my tools on it, and you're going to get that video, but it does show you the how-to on how to do it. That being said, you don't need a beautiful space to make things. You could use what you already have. This project does require you to at least have a jigsaw or a scroll saw. Just a heads up with that. But otherwise, you can actually find a jigsaw for pretty cheap now. I think $20 or $30 maybe online. And so I'll link some of the ones that I have and have used in the description below, as well as the scroll saw that I'm using. Besides that, you could get away with just using that as your only main big tool, essentially, and a hammer or screwdriver or whatever else. Anyway, I will talk about that all in the tutorial. Today, I'm going to share with you how to make a scalloped cookbook stand inspired by Magnolia. That being said, I probably won't use mine as a cookbook stand. I'm going to use it to showcase some of my older books that have beautiful illustrations in them, or beautiful writing or whatever. It will also be just a book stand. So that's what we're going to call it probably throughout this whole thing. So my name's Alicia. I'm from thriftyandchic.com. Here are your supplies on the next page, and let's get DIYing. First step is to print out the template that I have provided in the link in the description. The back piece comes on 2 pages. It is bigger than a normal piece of paper, so you need to align the curve on the top up together and then tape it. And then the template also comes with a front scalloped edge piece, and cut these out. You will notice that it does not come with the middle piece or the back piece, which we will discuss later. When those are all cut out, you are going to get a piece of scrap wood. Mine was about a 1 by 12 pine board that I was able to fit these pieces on. I used the edges to minimize my need for cutting, and then I just traced them on there. And then I used a scroll saw to cut these out. Now, this is where you could do a jigsaw. At one point in here, actually at multiple points in this process, I wish I used my jigsaw. I'm very comfortable with my jigsaw. Sometimes the scroll saw just seems like it takes a little bit longer, although it does give you kind of like a better finished edge. But I don't think that matters, especially once you get to the sanding portion of it. But it does give you a chance to get a little bit tighter in there. And so once those were all cut, I needed to find a scrap piece that would fit as the middle. And so I just found like a 1 inch piece that was extra, and I cut it down to size to fit the width of the back edge. And I used my scroll saw to cut this. And you can see now that this will go right in the middle. In between that, if you want a thicker piece or a thicker book, if you have thicker books, I'd recommend doing maybe 1.5 to 2 inches on this. You could do whatever size you want really at this point. And then I used my sander with a fine grit sandpaper to just kind of smooth out everything on the wood. And then I definitely paid a lot of attention onto the corners and the edges. You could see it's really smooth on one side and not on the other. So make sure it's all smooth on every part of it. And next is to use some wood glue and glue the pieces together. And so I just use this Gorilla Glue wood glue. It works really well. and I put the middle piece onto the back. At this point, you're going to want to let it harden and dry, and kind of secure itself, and then add the scalloped edge piece. I did make the scalloped edge piece, you will notice, just a little bit, maybe like a half inch wider than the back pieces. And so you'll want to line those up pretty good. Okay, now you can see it stands perfectly by itself, but it is not going to go back by itself, right? So it kind of needs like a kickstand. And so this is where this extra little piece comes in, and a hinge. So this piece is 7 inches long. I used just a 1 by 1 square piece that I had, but I would use a 1 by 2 if you had one available. I just didn't have one available. So I'm using what I had on hand, and I'm securing the hinge onto the kickstand, I guess, and I'm just kind of measuring and marking it where the kickstand itself will be flush on the bottom. And so the hinge will be marked on the top, and then just going to screw it in. I already screwed it onto the hinge itself. In order to make it easier to go in, I always like to mark my hole with my screwdriver. It's so much easier to get that screw initially started. So, and then I finished this off. As you can see, this hinge is too big, but it totally works. And actually, I think it's okay because then I can move it around left or right, if there was like something blocking it in the back and I still wanted it to be where it is. I'm not having to move it completely just because the stand, but you could have it just as is, as I showed you there. It could go way far back, but it does stop eventually. I decided I didn't want that to go that far back. And so I found some chain I had from an old project. It's about a 5 inch long chain, and I'm screwing it to the backside of the kickstand, and then exactly where the kickstand is going to meet onto the back of the wood, I'm doing another screw on there. You could use jute on this, or a ribbon, or like a piece of leather or something. That'll work just as well. But this chain I thought gave it a fun little look in addition to it, just to give it a little bit more vintage vibe. Although if you look at the back, you're going to see that ugly mess up of a hinge anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter really what it looks like, but I just thought it was a fun little addition here. And then once that's done, you can see how now it stays maybe about 5 inches and doesn't go completely all the way. My next step is to add some stain to it. I use Miniwax in black or in dark walnut. This turned out really dark, so I immediately cleaned it up just to try to keep it a little bit light. And it was okay. It wasn't super awful. At this point, I noticed, as you could see, that that was kind of lifting. The front scalloped edge was lifting. And so I'm going through with a brad nailer and 1 inch nails and securing them into place a little bit better. And while I'm here, I was like, I might as well just do the back end. If you don't have a brad nailer, you could do make this look clean, do it with like pin nails and a hammer, and that would work just as well.
Woo! I feel like this is a close-up. This turned out so cute. My only thing that I am not loving is the fact that I could probably have gone to the store to find one that would have worked with this, but since I didn't, it's kind of moving around. But that's totally okay. If you had gotten one like this that was 2 down instead of 2 across, it would be perfect for this. But I guess I could just move it around if there's something in the way behind it, which I guess is beneficial. But this turned out so cute. I love this chain that's on it. So I am going to, I don't know where I'm going to put this yet. So we're going to try it in here and see what it ends up looking like. So let's take this down. This is actually from when I went to Rome. So I love that little piece. I don't know if this is where I want it. I feel like this might be good because it's kind of already just has a lot of books here anyway. So let's just start taking these down. By the way, those who ask, I want to show you something. This is why I have them backwards. Because some of the books I read, she's such a wonderful author, by the way. They're just very bright. We will find one. This one might be a good one. I do know I have some that have like, let's see, like piano type lyrics and stuff in it, which would be cool. But I would definitely still keep some books on the side. Have that like that. Oh. Now we need to decide what other book. All right, I didn't find the book that I was thinking of, but I found a hymn book. I'm hoping that it fits. Depending on how thick your like cookbooks are, or whatever you're going to put in here book-wise, you can make that little middle part a little bit wider. I wish I probably had made mine a little bit wider. So anyway, FYI. But it's fitting in there. Oh my goodness. You guys, it's so pretty. All right. I was going to go and travel around the house and put this places, but I think it's found its home already. FYI, as I stepped back and looked at it, I could see that I did not stain the bottom. I stained the back and everything else, but not the bottom. Once it's kicked up, you could totally see the bottom, especially if it was probably higher. And so just a word of warning to stain the whole entire thing when you make this. So you don't see this, I'll go and stain it again in a second. But until then, I'm just going to enjoy it.